forward. So take it away.
Sure. Well, it's so nice to see you all. It would be nice to see you all in person again someday. Maybe we will work that out. And it's exciting for me to think of you all like evolving in your careers. And so I would be curious, but maybe we could do that at the end to hear about like what you're doing now and what your interests are and how that's changed over time. But I will. Share some of my experience and knowledge in teaching STEM. And I began as a math educator and then learned about computer science. And so I evolved into a computer science educator. And so these days I teach college students. And as you all know, I work with the camp. And then I also participate in research about CS education and broadening participation in computer science. That's the vocabulary that we would use to say, how can we encourage a larger group of people with more diverse backgrounds to have opportunities in computing? And so I decided I would pull from what I think about when I'm designing my classes. And some of that comes from my mind and some of that comes from my heart, right? So a lot of what I do was inspired by my own experiences as a student. Um, and then when I read literature or hear talks that speak to me, then I, grab onto those ideas and I explore them in my classes. So the first thing that I was going to go over is this music model of motivation. And so music is an acronym here. And I'll talk just a little bit about each of these. And maybe as I'm talking, you can be thinking about how you might identify with these experiences. Different students and different people are maybe motivated by different ones of these categories, or maybe groups of them. Everybody's a little bit different. And so the M represents empowering. So that's giving your students the ability to make some decisions about their learning. So that could look very different. And for you all, I'm kind of trying to imagine if you're doing some outreach and what that might look like. So the idea would be the students might be able to pick their project. And then my advice with that is that you don't want to leave it too open-ended because that can be scary to the students. But if you give them some choices, and that can be either choices of, let's say, whether to make a game or a website, or it could be everybody's going to make a game, but the students have freedom or empowered to design the game and make it about content that they care about, like if they're into sports or they're into shopping or whatever that is, right? So that's empowering your students. A word of advice as an instructor is that you want to leave things open-ended but manageable from your end. So depending on how many students you have, you need to be able to support the students in whatever directions they go. So think about that. If you have a group of students, if it's 5 or if it's 30, or like I have 600, I have to think about how many different types of projects they'll be doing, and am I going to be able to help them all with something different. So empowering your students, that giving people a sense of control can be very motivating. Also, having your students or your participants see what they're doing is useful. So for some people that's really motivating if they think, okay, I can, especially in computer science, okay, I can build something that is actually useful to me or somebody in my family. Or some people are career motivated. I'm learning a skill that's going to help me get the career of my dreams. And sometimes both useful and interest. If you care about social issues, maybe, I am building these skills and then I'm going to be able to make an impact. I'm going to be able to build a communication tool that, helps young women from across the world who have different interests all come together and communicate and share, right? So you want your participants to feel successful. And so one of the things to do with that, and that's about self-efficacy, I'll talk about that too, but giving assignments or activities, you want them to be challenging but not out of reach. And if they're smaller bits at a time, then a student can feel like more um, of a sense of success more often. And so if they feel successful, then they usually stay motivated and engaged. And then interest, something that your participants are interested in. And so that can also be interesting because you have to think about who you're reaching out to. So for you all, if you're doing some kind of outreach with individuals that are like your peers, you might have a good sense of like what they care about, like what their hobbies are, what their interests are, where they want to make an impact. I know, like when we first did Tech Girls, you know, well, and we would do this each time, but we would read all your bios to kind of be like, who's coming? Who are these students? And I would have our college students go out and pick out images for you all to use, right? Because I thought at least they're in the same age bracket as you all, so they might be able to get an idea, right? So that would be maintaining interest. And then students also stay motivated if they believe that others care about them in the environment. So that can be like instructors, TAs, or their peers, right? So if you build a supportive, caring environment, then there's a lot of students that will help them stay motivated. So I'm not sure how much of that you all have heard before or not, but I thought then we'll stop and let you think about what I just said. And I can go back to the other screen so you could see it. But
yeah, I don't know if are you guys seeing her screen up? I'm not sure if
I was rambling. Oh
no. I put it in the chat, the music thing, but I wasn't sure. Maybe
my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Oh, you guys could have interrupted me.
No problem.
Here we go.
You were just on such a great roll. And I put it in the chat, the music model.
Okay, yeah. Here, I'll go back. Here we go. All right, this is what I was looking at. If this helps.
This makes much more sense.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I should have said something earlier.
That's okay. I know you're like, when is she gonna stop? So what I was going over, right? This is the music, and the one that's the hardest is empowering because the M isn't first, and then the usefulness, success, interest, and caring. So that's what I was trying to highlight, all of those different ways that if you can pull these attributes into your course or your experience or your camp or whatever you're doing, or quite frankly, even if you're, if you have a group of leaders or if you're in a management experience, still, these are the kinds of things that motivate people. So when you can bring them into the environment, hopefully they'll help people stay engaged and have a good experience. So I could take questions, but I was going to have you all engage by, now can you see this participation slide?
Yep.
Okay. I was going to have you think about 2 times that you've felt this way, like in your life, in some kind of STEM experience, right? So like, if you were in a class or in a camp or in a program and you felt like empowered, or you felt like something about the class was useful to you, or what gave you a sense of success, or when you were doing something in a class and it was very interesting to you, you related to it, and then also a time when you've been in a class or group where you have felt like the people cared about you. So I was thinking to just reflect and think about your own experience and 2 times that you have felt one of these, and then maybe think about 2 ways, if you were designing a program, which I think some of you are, or you're helping others do that, ideas that you would have to try to incorporate these 5 features. So we could just like maybe take a minute and everybody could think about it. And then I don't know if we want to all share, or if, you know, maybe two people could share this time and two people could share next time or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe just take a couple. First one. Oh, I see Tama's hand's already raised. Oh, two people's hands already raised. Okay, so we have Tama and Yasmina. So why don't we give people just a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds to kind of think through this, and then we'll take let's see. Wow, you guys are super speedy.
I know sometimes when I hear these things, then I immediately start thinking of my own experiences. These days it's more from the instructor perspective than as a student, but whenever it gets talking, my brain starts working. So I was trying to help you all kind of reflect and ideate like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we could just start with who we have up here, and then other people you can continue to brainstorm while they're sharing their experience. Maybe it'll, like you said, tip it off for you something. So Tama, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. So I think I would share two experiences. The first one, which is in Tech Girls, where I felt like this model just like summed up the Tech Girls experience. And every single element just, clicked there. And I joined Tech Girls before going to university. So when I started university and I declared a major in computer science, I did not um, see that model happening. So it was like kind of like a shock between the STEM that I learned and the model I tackled, that Tech Girls tackled, and the way they are teaching STEM in my university. So, for example, the caring part, I felt like the students are competing with the teacher, not like we're not in the same team. Like they want to make sure that they know better, or like So yeah, it's just like two like opposite experiences. Although I didn't know this model, but like I now like think that okay, someone actually followed it. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, that's really interesting. Then we have Yasmina.
Yes, hello everyone.
Hello.
Uh, well, the first time that I felt that way was the time I discovered my interest in the STEM field. And that was throughout a boot camp that's called Solve 24. That is actually a follow on project done by three tech women, Lebanese tech women. So once I participated in that program, and once we were learning about Arduino and all these steps in STEM, I did feel that way. And as Taima mentioned, Tech Girls is like the best example to give once talking about this acronym. And currently, while I'm preparing for my follow-on project, I do keep in mind that I should keep the environment caring and like pushing them indirectly throughout their own success. So I guess that's all I have to share.
Thanks. That's great. Thanks for sharing. And we have Farah.
So I just wanted to add something real quick. So aside from Techers being an amazing program, and aside from our coding camp being absolutely successful and interesting and following the whole entire music model, but like currently as a Techers alumni officer, I'm conducting a STEM C++ programming club. And this really solidifies how you should interact with the participants, because I always try my best to incorporate different projects that would keep their interest and like keep them interested, and feel as if what we're taking is actually very interesting and can help them later on. And it's also very important, especially when it comes to the caring aspect, it's very important to keep on giving that positive feedback, just so you can always really encourage the girls to keep on and to always participate and interact. So that's what I have to say about the music model.
Thanks, Farah. That's great. So for some of the others who were taking a little time to write about their experiences, is there anything you want to share where you felt motivated by, something here, you felt empowered, useful, successful, or like Margaret mentioned, places, times that you think you could integrate this into future teaching. Feel free to just unmute yourself or write in the chat. Oh, Zainab, go ahead.
Hi, hello. I actually met you, Miss Margaret in Virginia Tech. I was a Tagger 2019, but I look different now. That's why maybe you don't recognize me.
I'll have to look back, or you'll have to send me pictures. Yeah.
Okay, I will. I think when I was in math class and we were learning about functions, and then we actually use functions to solve problems in real world, and I felt like this course was useful. So like, and then when I was taking Java classes, when like in Virginia Tech, and then when I completed my project, which is a game, and I was really proud of myself, and I was feeling like I can be really successful in this, in programming, and especially in Java, and it was a really great feeling. And I think I can integrate this in my projects. For example, in my follow-on project, I taught children robotics, and then I let them decide what to do with the skills they learned, and that's when like they felt empowered, and like you said, they had a sense of control, and they made decision about what they learned, and they actually built really great robots. That's all I have to share.
Thanks, Zainab. Thanks for sharing. It's so nice to hear everyone had such a good experience at Virginia Tech. I just keep hearing that. That's wonderful. Thank you.
I'm sure that there were some moments that we'll talk about that. Some moments that weren't, but as long as you overcome them, then that's good.
Oh, cool. Well, back to you, Margaret.
Let's see. And you all must be very proud of what you've accomplished so far. So another area that I look at, and a lot of these ideas, like the music model, you maybe were instinctively doing that before, and you maybe have been coached or on these ideas. But the nice thing about looking at these models, it gives you a way to talk about it and to self-check, like those 5 attributes. So something else that I'm very interested in is self-efficacy. And so self-efficacy is similar to confidence, but it's like confidence at a specific task, right? Like I can program in Java, or even more specifically, like I can complete a program with a few classes in it, something more skill-based and specific than just a general confidence. So like confidence, building self-efficacy is important, and we do some studies show some gaps in different demographic groups, like individuals from underrepresented groups or women, that they don't always have the confidence or the self-efficacy to match what they're actually capable of. And so some ways that we can build that, I'll have 2 slides about this, but the first 2 ways that I wanted to bring to your attention is vicarious experiences, which is watching others. And so that can fall under the category of role models or peer models, and providing evidence. So these questions are, written from an instructor perspective, or if you're running a camp or whatever it is, providing evidence to my students that other people with similar potential have succeeded in the course, so they can too, or have succeeded in computer science, or have built a robot. And as the leader or the instructor, you can provide that role model, but also if you can have peer role models, like how we have the undergraduate teaching assistants that are like closer to the participant's age, then that also can give a lot of vicarious experiences. Or I end up coaching students a lot, and I'll tell them, well, I've had students have these experiences, and sometimes they falter, but they still end up with a great internship. And I think that provides this vicarious experiences or role models or peer models for other students, so that they can maintain their confidence. And then the second thing here is the mastery experiences. So mastery experiences help build self-efficacy. So it's actually succeeding. So it's like the S in the music model, succeeding at a task. So the more times that a student has a mastery experience, the more their self-efficacy improves and that they believe that they can accomplish the tasks. So some ways to accomplish this is sequencing lessons from simple to more complex, making it clear how to be successful in the course so that a student can feel successful, and provide students with strategies they can use to monitor their understanding. And also giving a lot of feedback can do that too. And sometimes students don't have a clear picture about how they're performing at the skills relative to what's expected of them or to what other students have done. Especially in programming, right? You make a lot of mistakes and a lot of times it doesn't work. And people inadvertently think that means that they're not good at it, instead of it being like, well, that's the culture. You know, it's not going to work a whole bunch of times before you get it to work, and we expect that. So the two things here are providing vicarious experiences. Okay, so that could be a role model, and that could even be like watching somebody perform the task, or knowing that somebody has had a similar experience. So there's the role models, and then there's the mastery experiences, actually practicing the skill. So I was going to set up the same kind of thing here. Now for you all to reflect, you know, when has that happened to you? And then from there, think about how you could provide that to others, you know, in your experiences, in your life, in your programs. So I'll go back to it so you can look at it and think about it. Oh, I wrote something different on the slide there, didn't I? I said list. Instead of thinking about yourself on this one, I changed it up a little bit, but we can be flexible and do what you can talk about what you want to about those two things. I think that number 2, ideas for providing mastery experiences, I had say list 2 ideas because that's actually one of my personal favorites that I think has the biggest impact on students. So think about for yourself, or also for how you would implement a way for other people you know or students in your program to have vicarious experiences. That's 1. And then 2, have mastery experiences. I guess we can see where you're getting, and you can raise your hand if you are ready to share, or if you feel like it's you're not totally clear on examples, then I can give some of those to jog your ideas.
Any hands out there? Anybody interested in sharing their thoughts? Oh, here we go. Yasmina. Okay. Good to see you, Yasmina. Thanks for joining. Yeah, maybe if you have an example or two, that would be great. Oh, I see Celia's hands up. Let's take her first. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm sorry for my camera turned off. So actually, I think I don't have like examples, but can you hear me?
Yep. Loud
Oh,
and
okay,
clear.
good. Okay, good. So for vicarious experience, I think it happens a lot, and it's very empowering. If speaking about my experience, I mean, a lot of my other teachers have told like how other students maybe had same experience in some of situations when I was learning, and it actually helped me a lot to understand that, oh, okay, maybe I am a little bit at the back of the course, but I still can get there. Oh, so yeah, I'm sorry a little bit. I needed like 5 minutes to get like fully on board with my English.
No, you're
That's
doing
okay.
great.
It's
I'm
almost that
following.
I'm nervous.
No rush.
Okay, and for mystery experiences, I think it's and also I want to say that unfortunately I haven't had this kind of experience with my teachers in the past, and I think it's super helpful, and it will be really helpful for me in the past too, because I had a lot of classes where I didn't know how to succeed in the class. So I knew that I need to study hard. I knew that I needed to learn the um, lesson that we had, but I didn't get the full picture of what they wanted from me. Like sometimes they would be like, "Oh, write this kind of assignment in 3 days," and there will be like 5 or 10 assignments in one class, but we wouldn't know that. And by the end, we kind of it turns out that they're worth more than homeworks or like something like that, and we're like, oh, okay. So I think that would be super helpful in the past for me. So thank you very much for this information.
You're
Thanks.
welcome. Sometimes too, in classes, instructors will just give like 3 big projects instead of breaking it into pieces. And it helps new learners to gain confidence and mastery experiences if it's, we call it scaffolding, where you kind of build up over time to make something larger. I think I saw another hand go up. I can talk a little bit more about this, especially with, so you all may have ideas for mastery experiences in other fields, like in life sciences or math or engineering. But something for mastery experiences, particularly in computer science, like instead of just giving a big project, we give like smaller online coding practice so that you get, you try one little problem and you get feedback. And you do a lot of those, and that helps build the mastery experience. And another thing with coding is instead of just having a blank slate for the students, we'll provide like the skeleton for the code and have them fill in some of the blanks. So that's a good way to scaffold. And then eventually, then the students can build it, from scratch. But then we don't want to expect that right away. So it's kind of like hand holding piece by piece, getting them there.
Thank you. I see Farah's hand went up. Go for it, Farah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that to add to mastery experience, I think it's very important to take things step by step, and perhaps like start with small little projects and then go on to bigger projects, or perhaps introduce something that's very simple, and then through interactive experience get the students to actually like engage and suggest ideas to how we can advance this project or to how we can make it better. So that's one thing we can say, or like one example we can add. It's just to simply take things step by step and see where it goes.
Oh, I see a message coming in from Lydia. If you want to unmute yourself, feel free to speak out. Or that's okay. Maybe it's a technical thing. For vicarious experiences, I remember something happened to me as a student again with my physics teacher. It was there in my final year of high school here in Algeria. We have a national exam and your future field of study depends on your grades. So we were a bit insecure about not getting a good grade. I lost my spot. Just do whatever you want. Go in front of the university. Oh, I noticed 100 students getting in and out. And if they did, then you will. And that works for me today. Oh, thank you. Oh yeah, no problem. No problem. Thank you, Lydia.
Seeing that other people can do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I can go on, and then we can always come back to these ideas. Let's see. So those were the first two, and then the other two like key components of self-efficacy are this idea of social persuasion or growth mindset. And so the idea with growth mindset, and I can talk about that a little bit more later too, but it's the idea that you can improve. Like you're not just suddenly born able to be a great programmer, right? So everybody can do it if they work at it, if they have the right tools, if they have the right instruction. So that would be a growth mindset. And some ways that we can do this in our courses or our programs is provide feedback for incorrect work in a way that still maintains the student's confidence in successfully achieving the subject matter. And so how you choose your words and your tone matter. And so, you know, if you're like, no, 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 what were you thinking? Right? Then the voice inside the person's head is going to be like, I'm thinking I'm not good at computer science, right? So instead, you want to focus on the content, on the material, and try to give positive feedback. Instead of criticizing what was done, you make a positive suggestion for what could be done instead or how you could improve, right? So it's not a criticism of who the person is, but it's just about the learning process when you give feedback to others. And then also, this one is really good. Emphasize common mistakes to let learners know that the errors made are not unique to them. You'll see this sometimes in textbooks. There'll be like a message like, common mistake. Now, some research shows that if you show new students the common mistakes, it's a little bit risky because they might copy them inadvertently when they're so confused. And so there's a fine line between bringing common mistakes to students' attention. But I know a lot of times I see students make mistakes or they come to my office hours and they're mistakes that I have seen many, many times. And so being explicit, like actually just saying it out loud and saying to them, oh, well, I've seen this a lot of times before. Students, you know, commonly get confused about this. That's fine. We'll work through it. Helps with their self-efficacy, helps with their self-image, and helps with their growth mindset to know that it's okay to make those mistakes, and other students make them too. And then the fourth one is the physiological response. And so this is a lot about like maybe anxiety and stress that students experience, and then also excitement and positive feedback that you get from a great sense of accomplishment. So there's a balance there. And here you want to, you know, have engaging activities that pique the students' interest and satisfaction. You know, it makes them feel good. It's fun. They care about it. And then minimize their frustration with challenging concepts. So I find that's a hard one because we want some frustration tolerance in students to kind of overcome, but especially for brand new students and younger students, you know, we want to really emphasize like the fun, interesting, like the good feels about programming and what you can make and what you can do. So these two are social persuasion and physiological response. And I can give some ideas from my own experiences or what I see in class, but I think we should try, again, having you all list one thing about each that you think you could do, or that you've tried, or that you've experienced as a student in any kind of STEM course.
So for my school, a lot of our clubs are virtual now, which makes it kind of difficult to like really like engage with students and stuff just because like, you know, like they're on Zoom for all of school and then like trying to convince them to join like another Zoom call that's like not as mandatory can be like really difficult. So I think that's where like the physiological response kind of comes in, like you want to make the meeting something fun for them to do, something they actually want to join, and like that will only come through like engaging activities. So what I would try to do is like try to implement some type of like fun or like icebreaker type activity like in the beginning. Like sometimes it'll just be like, oh, like talking about like for like computer science club, we'd be like, oh, like talking about our favorite app or like what's like I don't know, like something that like our favorite app, like something simple like that. Or it could be like, oh, like we like were messing with like colors and stuff, and like we were trying to figure out like if I show like the color blue, like a maybe like a turquoise kind of color, be like, oh, like what's it in like hex code, like in its hex value. And like it was like kind of like fun little activities that like that are maybe not as like mentally draining, not as like academically like rigorous, but something just to get people like interested and kind of get them like excited for like what they're about to learn and what they're about to do.
Great ideas. Thank you for sharing. Have you all had experiences that are the opposite of this that make you think, oh, I'd like to do it differently? That you're willing to share? I know I have.
Oh, like a time when a teacher was like, you just don't get this. You're wrong. That kind of thing.
Yeah, because sometimes if you think about, I mean, I prefer to try to stay positive, but if you think about a time where you didn't feel encouraged or you didn't believe that you could do it, right? And then you're like, why did I think that? Or why did I feel that way? And then you can hone in on, oh my goodness, I don't want to do that to other people, right? So I know one time in my first programming class, the instructor said, who doesn't know DOS? And I'm like, I don't know DOS, and then I looked and there was like 150 people and only 3 of us didn't know. And I was, oh, that was really scary for me. So now I don't poll the class like that, because I don't want to make the people who don't have as much experience feel like they don't belong. Right. So if I need to know that somehow, then I don't do it publicly so that they feel self-conscious. So that would be an example like that I learned from my own experience.
Yeah. I love Lydia's answer here in the chat. Like when a professor or a teacher says, I already explained this twice already, la 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 la. And then you just feel like, oh gosh.
But then they say, I'm okay explaining it if no one gets it, or like if anyone has a question, and the moment you ask and they're like, why didn't you pay attention? It's on the board and stuff like that. Like, why did you ask from the first place? Just don't.
Yeah, like yesterday in my computer science class, actually, she gave us like a bunch of work, and I guess like she wanted us like to complete it like during the class time, and like we were trying to, but like no one was like finishing and like on like the amount of time that like she wanted us to, and she was like, oh, like it didn't take this long last year. What is taking you guys so long? And we were like, oh, like no one said anything, like no one knew what to tell her.
Right. Right. So that's the opposite of saying, yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's not that we want to hone in on the negative experiences, but I think if you recognize that something's discouraging you, first of all, from a personal viewpoint, it's not really about you. It's about the other people or the environment or however it's set up. Right. And then thinking moving forward, how can you try not to make other people have those uncomfortable feelings? That's my advice.
Yeah. I see Zainab's hand is up.
Yes, I just want to share like an experience I had. It was actually this week, and me and my friends, we didn't understand words in like the lesson, and I was so shy to ask it. So my friend asked what does this word mean, and then he said, oh, you don't know this word? You should have known it. Like, and then he kept blaming us that this generation is not really successful, that the older generation of like went to NASA and etc. And I just wanted to say that I went to NASA too, and at 15 years old, now like it was really discouraging because he kept blaming us because we didn't know words. And it was biology. So I don't know. I didn't like his reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I try to forgive people for their ignorance, that they don't even know that they're doing that, right? But then also try to, you know, make it better and do better, especially for each generation, like you all, right? So you will, when you're my age, you will know not to speak to young people like that, I hope. I have a few more slides, and then we can, you know, have, I guess I'm probably taking a lot of time, but then we can take some questions. Some more about growth mindset. I would guess that some of you have heard about this before, because I know that you've done a lot about personal growth, and Tech Girls probably talks about growth mindset. And for all of these slides, I did have, I put a reference at the bottom of them if you're interested in learning more. Like I have this book. But as I was talking about back here, how social persuasion is linked to growth mindset, in this idea that believing that you can make strides, that if you work for something, you can improve. Not that, like, you know, you were just born good at math or not, right? That if you have the right environment and the right attitude, you can achieve in math or whatever area it is. People who have a growth mindset and believe that they can get better, stay positive, they review their mistakes. So instead of thinking like, oh, I didn't get that right, I'm a failure, I don't belong here, they are like, oh, I made a mistake. How can I learn from it? How can I do better next time? Knowing everybody makes mistakes, that's part of the experience. And another thing about students with a growth mindset is they look for themes and underlying principles, like connections and the big picture, instead of just the isolated topic that they're learning about. Like if you're learning about a for loop, how is that similar or different to a while loop? So a good instructor will help you make those connections, but sometimes you're left on your own to do that. And then here's some of my favorite strategies. They may or may not have come through as I was talking, but as I reflected, I mentioned scaffolding. So that's providing steps going from smaller to larger assignments, you know, not just having students come in and be like, okay, you're going to spend 3 weeks on a project, start. There's that hand holding, milestones, little parts at a time, small practice. As I mentioned before, giving students skeleton code where they just have to fill in some of the blanks, providing examples. So a lot of times I will give an example and then the assignment will be to do something very similar, to just change it a little bit. So that's scaffolding. Peer support. I think, you know, having peers in your course, and then also teaching assistants other than the main instructor. So like if you all were doing a camp or some kind of project, if you have the students who were in the camp the year before and they can come back and help the new students, that works really well. Have the students have clear and approachable ways to get help so they know how to seek help. So if you're in the classroom, that might be raising your hand, but if it's online, you know, there might be a message board or an email or a Zoom conference. You know, if you're running a camp and some student is embarrassed to ask a question in front of the other students and they need time one-on-one with you, giving them a way to have that. Like on Zoom, you could go into a breakout room, because some students, and most students, might be embarrassed to ask a question in front of a large group, but they will learn a lot more one-to-one. And then promote engagement, small practice. So not just like, oh, go watch this video and learn how to do it, or go read this book, but, you know, watch a video in small pieces and then practice, and watch more and then practice, so that you're an engaged learner instead of passively just watching a video or reading text or listening. And I think though, yeah, those were all the main ideas that I thought of ahead of time that are kind of, for me, the tenets of how I try to design classes and programs, ways that I've seen successes. And a lot of these ideas are well documented in research literature too. Do you all have anything you want to share about your own experiences or about how you would implement any of these things?
I just hope in college I have professors like you, because some of my friends in college, like they're like, oh, like my professor, like I don't really understand. Like they're very like, I don't know, like they're complaining about all like the classes, especially like over Zoom and stuff. And you just sound like the complete opposite of that. So
Oh, I try. I mean,
I
sometimes we're busy and we have deadlines, and I have to say, like, I'm sorry, you know, but I do try, and there are more and more teachers and instructors and professors that are informed. But I think my biggest advice to you would to know that it's not you, it's them, right? So you don't want to criticize them. I want you to be respectful of whoever is teaching you, and I'm sure they have a lot of knowledge. But you know, if they say something to you that's hurtful or discouraging, then instead of feeling bad about yourself, I would like your inner voice to be like, they don't even know what they're saying, or they're saying that to me because their parents and teachers talked like that to them, and they don't know there's this kind of different way to be supportive, so that it's not about you. Because I can't protect you from those teachers. You're gonna have them. But being able to like persevere, I'm sure I showed you guys, this is, so one of my children is deaf, if you remember, and she uses some sign language. And so this is my favorite sign, which is like slow and steady, you persevere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So even if you have that teacher all year or that semester who is not positive, you know, don't take it personally. And I'm sure you're not the first student they've made feel like that, you know, it's just get through.
I want to just add one thing, which is that like sometimes when you do struggle with something, it actually makes you a better teacher, because like you're exposed to all the different angles of looking at the problem. Like I know that for me, when I was in high school, I was tutoring people in algebra, and they were like, wow, this is great, thank you so much, you're so good at this. And they're like, how'd you get good at this? And I'm like, well, I kind of did really badly my first year. Like in 8th grade, I got like a C- or something. And I just didn't understand the concepts. And so I needed to see it from a different angle, maybe have a different teacher. But after that, I was like, oh, I get it. And I see those common mistakes that people make. So sometimes it's just actually a blessing to have the struggle, so you can like, yeah, you can really help other people who are going through similar ones. At least that's my experience.
I think so too. Yeah, one other thing to add. So historically, I'll just give you some perspective. Historically, you know, as you get to university, especially, you know, the professor is someone who to be respected, and they may come across as if this knowledge just magically appeared in their head, and also maybe be a little dominant to sort of gain respect. And I find that problematic. While it's important to establish respect, then the students don't realize that that professor had to work to get where they are. They made mistakes along the way. They didn't just magically like walk in one day and be good at it. So even though sometimes professors put up the front like that to kind of maintain control and respect, like they work to get there too. Yeah. So I see that a lot. Yeah, and when I'm teaching students, I try to remind them that I had to work to learn it, because, you know, I'll prattle off about something and they're looking at me like, how does she know all that? But it's not magic. It's, you know, hard work.
Yeah. Oh, and it sounds like Lydia's brother's going to be a doctor pretty soon, because she uses her little brother as a student. So she has her own own class there.
Nice. Well, a lot of families have a lot of kids that need help at home these days, right? Yeah. I have a daughter in geometry. And she goes to school a little bit, but then it's been mostly remote, and she'll get frustrated. And then I'm like, well, at least you have a geometry teacher at home. And I'll be lecturing, and she'll be like, can you answer my question? You know, So it's nice to be able to impart that to people in your lives too. So I hope you all can do that as well for your friends or your cousins, or you were talking about tutoring. And I did that too. If you have the opportunity, whether it's in a group or individuals, it also helps you learn the material more, by the way. Teaching something really helps you. My students who have been TAs for my data structures class, they get really good jobs because they're really good at interviews, because they took the class and then they help hundreds of students with the class, sometimes for a few semesters. So when it comes time to have like one of those oral coding tests at IBM or Google or Microsoft, they are very well prepared. And I think in addition to being wonderful and bright and good students, they had so much practice helping the other students that it really built their skills. Oh, let's see, did anybody have Bethlehem as a TA? Maybe that was 2019. I guess she's still one of my TAs, but she just interned at IBM. So I'm proud
Very
of her.
cool.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. Any other thoughts, closing thoughts from anybody out there? Thanks, Tama.
Thank you all for your participation and having me and being attentive. I hope that you think about it and it impacts some of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll give you a round of applause. And a ta-da.
Yeah, well, thank you all for being awesome, right?
Yeah. We really appreciate your
It's
time.
a great opportunity for me. Okay, I will go meet with my students.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.